Welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where we help you conquer the internet one video at a time. We cover everything from how to start a YouTube channel to how to make a video go viral. And now, here's your host, the one and only Dusty Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 308 of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where each and every Friday I release a new interview-based show in regards to someone on YouTube, a wonderful creator, and I talk with them about their strategy, their journey along their YouTube career up to this point. Today is no different. We have Chris from Drip Media Gaming on the show, and we talk about growing a gaming YouTube channel in 2022 and beyond. We talk about what it takes to stay consistent. We talk about all the strategies that he's implemented, what he's learned about himself as a creator, things that he wished that he would have known sooner, and so much more. So stick around for that for sure. We are brought to you today by the fine folks over at TubeBuddy. If you want to know who or what they do, please use our link, and you'll get to try them out for free for 30 days, an entire month of every tool. And by the way, there are a ton of them that they have to offer. One of the new ones is a chapter feature, which allows you to add chapters automatically from within your video creator page. It saves loads of time. So please check it out if you haven't already. Thank you to TubeBuddy. And thank you to those folks over at patreon.com/DustyPorter. All of you over there supporting me, giving us a few dollars to keep the lights on here at the podcast, allowing us to continue to devote the time that we have to make this podcast the best YouTube show on the web. And I think we are. I think we're the best YouTube podcast around. If you leave us a review, that's absolutely free. Wherever you listen to the podcast, please leave us a review over there. Let us know what you think of the show. I always get a kick out of hearing the different things that you folks say about the podcast. You can connect with me over on Twitter at DustyPorterYT or email dusty@dustyporter.com. So with all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Super excited today to be joined by Chris Starcher from the Drip Media Gaming YouTube channel. Chris is a professional photographer for over 10 years, working with portraits, weddings, products, and real estate. He runs a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel called Drip Media Gaming and has for about 2.5 years. Basically, he focuses mainly on the channel, but he also loves other platforms, including PlayStation and Xbox. So primarily focused on Nintendo, but general gaming as well. YouTube is something that he always wanted to do, but was so afraid to start. And 2.5 years later, luckily, things in his career forced him to pivot. So here we are today, and he is well on his journey, with currently sitting at almost 35,000 subscribers and anywhere from 4,000 to 10,000 views daily. Chris, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm happy to have you. I have not had a gaming channel on the podcast for a long while. Early on in the show, if you know much about the Creators Hub podcast, early on in the show, gaming was a quite frequent trend on the podcast because a lot of those folks were willing to come on the podcast, and I realized that I didn't want to become the YouTube podcast that focused solely on gaming. But then I realized that some of those shows were some of my favorite because even though they're, your niche in your space is gaming, there's so much YouTube general information and education that you guys could share along growing a gaming channel. So before we get into any of that, would you give me the story behind the Drip Media Gaming channel? I mean, I know we talked about in the open there about you having to pivot due to some life circumstances and things like that, but would you give me the full story of the origin story of the Drip Media Gaming channel?
Yeah, so Drip Media itself, that was the original name, but it wasn't for this. It was for something completely different. It was something I was doing in photography, product stuff in the vape industry. So I was doing basically doing content, creating content for these companies for them to post on Instagram, making short videos for them to use for whatever they need it for. And eventually you kind of could see the writing on the wall with the vape industry. Things where, government stuff was coming down on them. There was a lot of different things going on. So it was kind of like, I have to go somewhere else. This is not going to be here forever. So I wanted to do YouTube really bad, but I was honestly just terrified to get in front of a camera. So I just made excuses. And finally, the day that the Switch Lite was released, which was September 20th in 2019, I went out. I'm filming this. I'm doing this. It's time. I'm going to stop being so afraid. So I filmed an unboxing video of that, but I filmed myself, going to get it, kind of the whole deal. Got it up the 22nd, so 2 days later, and that's basically it. From there, I kind of moved out of the vape photography stuff and more into this, and slowly have just, I still do other stuff. I still do a lot of other photography and video work, but mainly as far as that goes, this is basically it now.
So I have to admit a couple things to you before we dive into the YouTube stuff. Between myself and my daughter, I'm somewhat of a video game collector. I love collecting old gaming systems, and the Switch is one of my favorite systems because now, as a father of two and running my own business, I don't really ever get to play video games, but my daughter's into them a little bit, and the Switch is the one that we can kind of do together. And so I have probably way too many Switches that I would like to admit. I have probably one of all of them that have come out as far as like the colors and the different stylings and things like that go. So I'm super excited to chat with you just because of that reason alone. So you did the video, you started the channel. With that being the case, early on and even up to this point, what has been the hardest thing for you? Like, what have been a couple of things that you've had to really focus in on and get through to grow the channel?
Honestly, the hardest thing for me, I think, has been ignoring analytics when things get bad and just staying away from that and not letting myself get down about, a video that did bad. That's the stuff early on. That and mean comments. Early on, I really let those get to me a lot. At this point, I post a lot of them in my Discord just because it's kind of good for a laugh at this point. But those two things really, really got to me early. The biggest one was putting all that time into a video. Like I said, and my background's in photography and, filmmaking and stuff. So I really, I would put all this time into B-roll and these super slow-mo 120 frames per second shots that transition into this and that. And I'd spend hours making these 30-second B-roll sections and, it would get no views. And that was really, really discouraging at first. But at this point now, I know it happens. Not every video is going to be a banger. It just can't happen. And sometimes you just read your audience a little bit wrong, and it may not be something that they're that interested in. So that was really, really hard for me to deal with. But I've gotten over a lot of that. Some of the ones I really put a lot of time into still kind of hurt. It still stings a little bit whenever you look at the views after about an hour, and you're like, oh well, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm the same way, but I don't think that ever goes away. I've been doing it now for a decade plus, and I work with other creators, and so I don't think that feeling ever goes away. Looking at the analytics and all of those things, I don't think that goes away, so I hate to break it to you, but you know what? That's just part of it.
Yeah.
How important is it, Chris? I assume that you're a gamer. I assume that you're really into the Nintendo ecosystem and obviously the Switch, which is their current platform right now. How important is it to create a channel around something that long-term you're going to still be passionate about?
Well, that's honestly the reason that I picked Nintendo over anything else I wanted to do a YouTube channel, because there were several options at first. I wanted to do maybe something in photography or video, just something that was focused more on that, on gear, on things like that. Because one of my biggest inspirations on YouTube is Peter McKinnon. I love what he does.
Me too.
Absolutely love him. And, I don't know. I just kind of looked at that. I looked at him, the other guys that are kind of in his little crew there. And I just said, I'm not going to be able to do this like that. This is covered. I don't need to do this. I need to take these type of things, these, like I said earlier, the slow-mo B-roll and the fun editing, it's not really in gaming all that much. So that was kind of where I was at with even going to Nintendo in the first place. But yeah, Nintendo's not going anywhere, and I kind of learned not to put all my eggs in a basket that may not be around with the vape industry. I had everything in that basket, and it, pretty much exploded right in front of my face. So it was like, well, okay, I know not to do that again. I figure Nintendo's a pretty safe bet. And yeah, I mean, I grew up on Nintendo. I had the original Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the 64. I didn't have a GameCube. I will admit that. I switched to PlayStation for a while, but came back with the Wii, and I've had all the systems, ever since. I'm a huge Zelda fan. It's just something that's always been around in my life. I mean, I have Zelda tattoos on my hand, like they're, it's just something that's always been a part of my life, and like you said, it's something I just don't have to worry about going away.
Yeah, it's a big part of my life as well, as I mentioned in the open. And we also talked about in your intro that you've kind of branched out into other gaming ecosystems, a la Xbox and Microsoft, and then PlayStation and Sony. What has been your reasoning behind that? And can you speak on briefly the dangers of a gaming channel locking into one thing and then that thing just going away?
Well, I'll say this. As far as the YouTube channel itself goes, I still only cover Nintendo on the YouTube channel. I also have a Twitch where sometimes I play games, sometimes I don't. That's more for just the how do I even put it? It's more for the part of the community that is very invested. That's where we hang out, over on Twitch. So sometimes I'll play anything, PlayStation, Xbox. We'll do really anything. Sometimes we build Legos. We really do anything over there.
Sure.
But as far as I don't think it's a problem to stick with something like a company like Nintendo, especially in the gaming space. I think it's honestly maybe better, and that's why I've kept it that way. I'm afraid that I see people get stuck on not maybe a company, but a game.
Right. And that was kind of more what I was leading to. Yes.
Yeah, that's dangerous. That's super dangerous. I saw I've seen channels just for instance, they get hung up on Animal Crossing, which is a great game. I was literally just playing it before we started this. Still love it. But, the hype for games like that, they die down. Mm-hmm. And you can have a super successful channel with something like that while the hype is there, but there's only so many people who are going to keep going with a game like that. And until the next one comes out, you kind of start finding yourself in this place where you're just like, I don't know what to do. Nobody's interested in this anymore. And I've seen it happen a lot. And Animal Crossing is definitely not the only game.
It's not. That's a really good example. And it's not just in the gaming space either. And I talked about it not too long ago on a Two Buddy Express podcast. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because you focusing on a company, be it Nintendo, on your channel, I don't think we're at a point where we're of danger of Nintendo not releasing another gaming system or another Mario game or another Zelda. I think they will continue to do that. And so building your channel around something that is consistent is a very important thing. And so I want to kind of piggyback off of this, and I want to ask you one of my favorite questions, Chris, and that's, what is something that you know now that you wish you would have known sooner?
As far as just creating content in general?
With the YouTube channel, absolutely,
okay.
Yes.
I actually think I have a pretty good one for that. It's actually one answer with two parts.
Okay.
The first part is you absolutely have to deliver content for other people, not for yourself. You have to give them a reason to watch you. I feel like that is the most important thing. While, yes, I do love Nintendo and I love talking about the stuff that I talk about, one of the biggest reasons my channel did so well early is because I found an area that wasn't being covered. It was the Switch Lite. It just so happened to be my first video, but all the cases and the grips and things like that, like, they weren't really being covered for the Switch Lite. So that's where I went. I knew that people needed that information. Those videos did really well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I did what I did in the first year. But the second part of that is you absolutely have to be yourself and show who you are to the people who are coming for that information. Because in my opinion, and from what I've seen building my community, they come for the information, but they stay for you.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that statement. I do, however, want to ask you, as far as like your channel and the continual content that you produce, with being a gaming channel, you talked about you have to be yourself. There are so many gaming channels on YouTube. I feel like hundreds of them start every day.
Yeah.
How do you stand out?
Well, I mean, honestly, that was, like I said, I researched all this stuff for so many years, and that was kind of the question that was always asked, like, how are you going to make yourself stand out? What are you going to do? I mean, a lot of what I kind of lean on, and not so much anymore, but really in the beginning, was the fact that I had photography and editing skills that a lot of people just don't have. A lot of people in gaming, and it's not to knock on anybody who's making videos, because there's a lot of people out here who are making great videos that don't need any of that. But that type of thing, that high end, like I said, the 120 frames per second B-roll stuff, that, I mean, obviously I got that from Peter McKinnon, but things like that just weren't in the space. So I felt like I had a little bit of an advantage going in, knowing how to do things like that, and how to edit, how to just produce things a little bit better. My biggest problem was me in the beginning. My content looked great. I was just like a scared deer in the headlights on camera for the first few months. But I mean, I think that's really the thing that helped me in the beginning, is just having that information going into it, not having to learn that as you go.
And so you would just say, as far as trying to stand out in your field or your space, trying to look at the space itself and see what's not there, see what void you can fill. And you mentioned previously about being yourself, and I could not agree more with that, but finding your niche among your niche. I hate that word, by the way. So find what you can do to make yourself different. There are tons of Nintendo channels out there.
Yeah.
But what makes Chris different is the way he shoots his videos, and I've watched many of them, enjoyed a bunch of them, because I'm into the content and the stuff he's covering, and he does a really good job. Now, you mentioned that you were a scared dog or scaredy cat, in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get over that? What were some things that you did that kind of helped you eliminate that fear?
Honestly, the biggest thing that helped me with all of that, and you can probably agree with me 100%, and really anybody listening to this, especially when you start out, listening to your own voice recorded is one of the worst experiences ever. It's so bad. The biggest thing that helped me not only get over that, but get better at what I was doing, as I watched myself back. I watched my videos. I mean, just the editing process alone is a huge help, because you have to watch yourself. You're cutting all this stuff up. I think that is what helped me the most, just seeing what I was doing on camera, not even realizing it at the moment. But then, when you go back and you're editing and you can see it right there in front of you, you realize, okay, maybe not the best decision. Maybe not do that next time and try this. That was big for me. It was that, and like I said, getting over the fact of hearing my own voice took a lot for me, because I don't know. Like I said, I know a lot of people struggle with that.
It takes a long time to get used to that. It took me a long, and I guess because I've done it so long and I do so many podcasts and I still do a lot of editing myself for all of those things, I have to listen to myself.
Yeah.
Even though my wife would tell you differently, I do not like to hear myself talk. It's never something I've got comfortable with, or never something that I enjoy doing. And so I could not agree more. But watching your videos back, listening to yourself, even today, after all of these years, I still hear and see little ticks of mine that I do that I wish I didn't. And going and watching and consuming my content allows me to get better, and next time I'm recording, try to alleviate and eliminate those things. So I love hearing you talk about that. Let's talk monetization. Making money with a gaming YouTube channel is not always the easiest thing. You mentioned previously you're on Twitch, so you obviously have other sources of revenue. So talk about how you're making money right now, currently, and how you plan to in the future.
Well, okay, obviously YouTube ad revenue, which is it's up and down. With that, it's hit or miss depending on the month, especially that's one thing about being dependent on what Nintendo is talking about. Because if they're not talking about anything, nobody's really trying to find my content. Nobody new. It's just the same people who normally watch it. So that's up and down. That's something. It's there. It's whatever. I talk about a lot of products. I do a lot of reviews of, controllers, of grips for the Switch, different things, carrying cases. So Amazon affiliate links have helped me a ton. I have direct affiliate links with companies like Skull & Co. That has helped tremendously. Obviously, I have Twitch. What else?
And are you doing this full time?
Yeah. I mean, basically, my only other full-time job is I'm working for an app where I do like 30-second videos. It's basically like TikTok ads and things like that. So it's this and that. So I guess I split my time a little bit, but I only put out 1 or 2 videos a week. So I do have some extra time to make some other money. If I didn't have to, do that, I would probably put out more content. But, it's not quite enough yet, but it's very close. It's getting there. Yeah. Every month I look at this and I'm, one step closer, and it's all the pieces. It's not just one thing. It's you have to. We've talked about it. This is the second time I've said it, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. I learned that through the photography thing I was doing on Instagram, and I definitely promised myself I wouldn't do that again.
If you don't mind me asking, and if you're not comfortable sharing, that's okay. A gaming channel of your size, around 35,000 subscribers with the affiliate links plus the ad revenue, what is your average monthly revenue per month?
With everything combined?
Excluding the other stuff you're doing for like the side gigs, just YouTube stuff.
I would say anywhere from... It really depends on the month. $1,500 to $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Honestly, it fluctuates.
That's
crazy.
That's the reason why I wanted to ask you, because it does fluctuate, and it's not just you. That's just the nature of the beast. And here recently, with everything going on with the recession and people spending less on ad revenue, there are definitely less people buying ads and thus obviously making less money depending on the space that you're in on YouTube. So I could not agree more with what you're saying there. I wanted you to say that because I knew that would probably be the case where it would fluctuate. But you know what? How cool is it that you can make some videos on the Nintendo ecosystem and make that kind of money? That is awesome. Like that's just the beauty of YouTube.
It is literally a dream come true. It really is.
It is. And
amazing.
You are, in all due respect, you are just getting started. You know what I mean? Like you are at the point to where you've got it. You've got what it takes. Like if you go to Chris's channel, Drop Media Gaming, his thumbnail game is fantastic. He's got a great personality. He knows how to handle himself on camera, and he's great at covering news and reviews and things like that. So you've got what it takes. So it's just a matter of time before you continue to take off. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast. Yeah. I don't say that to everyone.
I really do appreciate that. And I honestly try to keep telling myself that too. Like, you're just in the beginning. It's okay. You're not making what you need to right now, but you're gonna. I mean, where are we at? 2.5 years?
Yeah,
at this point?
But I think that it's a great point, Chris, that we pause for a second and kind of focus on what you just said. You've been doing this for 2.5 years. Some folks would look at that and say, oh my gosh, that is an eternity. But on YouTube, that is just a blip. That is nothing as far as YouTube goes. And so I want to ask you this before I get into our last few questions here today. How do you get beyond the thought of you're never going to succeed? Because I know you have those days, because I have those days. I have those days where a couple of weeks ago I looked at some numbers on some videos and I was like, man, this is not anywhere near what it used to be. And I started thinking about things that I could do, So we all have these days. So what do you do? What gets you through those kind of cold and dreary days per se?
Honestly, and I've had a few of my friends who are creators as well, just kind of starting out, people from my community, people from my Discord community who have started their YouTube channels or their Twitch and stuff, ask me that all the time. And honestly, it's a mindset that I put myself in a long time ago. And it was with the vape photography stuff on Instagram. I wanted to do that, and I saw there was money to be made, and I just wasn't going to take no for an answer. It's like, this is going to be my job. This is what I'm going to do, and no matter what, it's on to the next. You just do what you do, put it up, see how it goes, on to the next. I just took quit out of my vocabulary when it comes to this stuff. And it took a while to get there, but I don't even think about that anymore. It just is what it is. This is what I'm doing. It's not an option. It's completely out of my head to think, oh, I'm just going to give up. It's just not possible at this point. It took a while to get there, but that's basically it.
A lot of it is mentality. A lot of it is just self-talk of, hey, listen, it's going to be okay. And having a supportive cast around you, whether it be a spouse, a partner, a parent, a sibling, who's like, listen, I'm here for you. I'm going to support you. Because when you tell people you're a YouTube creator, they're like, what? You know, they're so interested because they think it's so weird that you don't go punch a clock somewhere or you don't have a normal job, especially when, you know, you're like, in my case, you know, it's hard for me to even explain to them what I do on YouTube because I just do tutorial videos. And for you, I bet it's even stranger because you're like, oh, I cover video games on YouTube. So that's like two weird things in a row. So understanding that what you do may not always be the norm, but you're going to have to convince yourself that you can do it and you can be successful. So I love that. What's next for the channel, Chris? What are you looking to do in the short term and the long term?
Well, as far as content goes, it's going to be more of the same. We're kind of starting to hit a rhythm that I'm pretty happy with right now. Things we're covering as far as just general news. A lot of what I cover, if it's not just general news in my opinion on it, we do, like I said, a lot of hardware stuff, and I feel like we're probably going to be getting some new Switch hardware very soon, probably from Nintendo. So I'm excited about that. As far as new things, we used to stream on YouTube, and I moved that all to Twitch. But seeing what YouTube is doing right now, kind of taking on Twitch and putting things in that weren't there, I'm really, really contemplating going back to streaming on YouTube, on the channel. We actually did our podcast over there, what was it, Friday night? And I'm going to go ahead and stream on there tonight again, just to kind of see what happens. But that's something we used to do a lot. I felt like it was a problem for my channel for a while, but I think bringing it back over there right now, especially with what they're doing, bringing in all the new features and stuff that they're bringing in, I think it's great. I'm so glad they're finally doing it. I can't wait to see what else they add. But basically, that's it. More of the same and some live streams. Yeah,
with streaming, YouTube's always been behind the 8 ball, it seems like, behind Twitch and other platforms, but they're right there. They're on the precipice of what I think could be really great.
I feel like they could press a few buttons and just annihilate Twitch if they wanted to. I feel like
all it would take is them to create something, a separate entity like YouTube streaming, and have you link your channel but not have it convolute your channel, if that makes any sense.
That would be amazing. I wish that was the case.
I've often said that between the YouTube Shorts, the community tab, the streaming, the thing that YouTube does the best, the VODs, the uploaded videos, if they just did those things separately with their tech and their pull being from, being Google and everything, they could dominate all of it. They could dominate the TikTok space, they could dominate the YouTube current space, and they could dominate the Twitch, the streaming space. But with gifting memberships coming up and other things that they're doing, I knew it hurt my channel when I did it. I loved doing it, but it literally hurt my channel. I could show you where it did. Now, many people could say that's not the case, but it did. I saw the numbers. And I think they're getting away from that. And if they could find a way to separate those things, I believe gaming on YouTube, but maybe they're too far behind. I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. So if you would, Chris, can you let my audience know where they could find you on the internet?
You can find me at youtube.com/dripmediagaming. You can find me at twitch.tv/dripmedia, and our podcast channel is youtube.com/dripjeeb, Geeb. I believe that's right.
I really want you guys to go check out Chris's channel. All the links will be in the show notes, as they always are. His thumbnail game is top-notch. He's got some really awesome content, and if you want to know what it takes to succeed, re-listen to this show, go to his channel, and I do believe that he is right on the edge of really blowing up on YouTube. So, Chris, congratulations on your success, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It has meant the world to me, and we'll chat with you later.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
You've been listening to the YouTube Creators Podcast. We want to thank you and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as support us on Patreon for great perks, such as having your YouTube channel featured on the show and a link on our website. Until next time, keep uploading those videos.